Hi, my name is Alexandria McClanahan, and I am here to present my research paper. For those of you who don't know me, my main thing is history. I love history. I am such a big geek when it comes to it, so this has been a pure delight, and honestly, it's been very, very hard to try to shorten some of these things. But bear with me as I try and explain this. My paper is called What is Born from a Pandemic? To start, what is the main topic of today? COVID-19. It's such a big deal because it is the plague of today. It has done so many things. It's killed many millions of people. It's put businesses out of order, teared families apart. It's done so much damage. And I feel like sometimes we get caught in the thought process of damage and don't actually think about good that comes out of this. So, what will come out of this? Well, history says that things will get better. According to Kumra Tamar, he is a successful CEO, entrepreneur, states that if history of a pandemic is a guide, this contagion, like all others, will spark a wave of innovation and proportional to how it alters and shapes society. Translation, things are going to get better. And not only that, we will have a whole new society that comes out of it, from creativity to anything. Like it's going to be beautiful. The next thing I wanted to just briefly touch on this. This is a diagram of like the history of pandemics. It goes from the very first one that was on record, the Anatolian plague, down to modern era. But just to focus on what we're going to do, Black Death, smallpox, Spanish flu, and of course, coronavirus. So the Black Death, that took place in 1347 to 1352, officially ending then, but continued until 1770. So although we don't have records of how many people died over that entire time period, um, we actually have record of how many people died within the first 5 years, which was 200 million, which is insane. The plague was spread by rats, and so it was a very complex and hard time. Honestly, Europe was very, very germy at the time. It's not the least bit surprising that happened. So Black Plague was one of the worst plagues to sweep across Europe in the 14th century, yet it is argued to be the grandfather of the technical revolution. And I think this is true. I think that it is one of the grandfathers. It produced the technical revolution. This guy who wrote this, I didn't put it in brackets, but his name is Cabell, and he is a professor. He's done massive research, and a lot of his stuff is really intriguing to figure out stuff like that. I have a lot of stuff in my references at the end. So some of the medical advancements that took place was quarantine and PPE. So personal protective equipment. You can see the doctors here, plague doctors, as everybody knows, were covered head to toe. Their hat represented their profession. This mask actually was full of herbs and spices so that they could breathe clean air. The stick was so that if they needed to move people of infections, they didn't have to touch them. And for quarantine, they actually believed it was the smell that got everything going. So that's why he wore the mask, to breathe clean air and protect them from these evil smells, as they called them. So some of the innovations that came out of that time was the writings of Shakespeare, the discoveries by Sir Isaac Newton, and some of these other inventions that honestly don't have creators, I guess. There was timekeeping and the printing press. And those were incredible record keepers from that time onwards. Another one that happened was actually smallpox. So that one, the earliest signs of it took place in the 14th century back in China. It was a Varroa major virus. The records of it is very fuzzy because it's been around for like ever. But one of the ones that we could keep record of was one in 1520 in the New World. America, North America, South America, that whole New World area. That one killed 56 million people. And it continued to stick around up until 1977 when Dr. Larry Brilliant gave the last one. last vaccine. But speaking of vaccines, it actually was created by Dr. Edward Jenner. Here we have a picture of him giving the first vaccine to a boy named James Phillip. And over here, we have a picture of Dr. Larry Brilliant, who actually gave the last vaccine, and he was in India. So this is actually a cool picture of him working in India during that time. Now, there's Spanish flu. This one was an interesting one because it took place over 1 year. Unlike the other ones that took place over mass amount of time, this one was 1 year. It was an H1N1 virus, and I'm not a science nerd, so I cannot tell you exactly what that stands for, but it took place from 1918 to 1919. Over World War I, it killed somewhere between 40 and 50 million people. The record's unclear because of World War II. The disease came from pigs, which of course brings us to the next point. It returned in 2009, although that H1N1 virus was labeled as the swine flu. So the Spanish flu hit hard, hit fast, and disappeared without much, really knowing anything. But creativity came out of it. Egon Scheiner, he drew a picture of his wife the day before she died, and a picture of his mentor. Now these are beautiful paintings or drawings that will be kept in record because they represent that time period. Over here we had Edvard Munch. He actually did a one of himself with the flu. Before we had a picture of him afterwards. This one was during the time he actually had the flu. So COVID-19, the coronavirus, as source is unknown. It started like 2019 fall. It's worldwide. It's currently in progress. We all know this. It's public knowledge. Medical advancements. It is following the same pattern in history. It sped up the process of vaccines. We have it in less than a year. Is faster than the mumps. Now, the mumps actually, they took place in 1964, like when they made the vaccine, and that one took 4 years to create. So people around the world have been trying to figure out how to cope and survive. Even without knowing it, they have followed the historical patterns. This is a cool record from the journal, a journal of the plague of the year. It actually shows two different cool compositions, or I guess artistic bits. Here we have a journal entry. Here we have a drawing. It is actually quite incredible, the stuff that's gone into it, and we've seen some really cool creativity. So what's there to expect? Changes is going to come. We already have it happening. We have people working from home, virtual learning, contactless orders, at least that's going to be a new one. That was actually something that the CEO, the guy I quoted earlier, had mentioned was coming into production in the next while. So the pandemic's pushed productivity forward. In conclusion, according to history, pandemics gives birth to new era full of creativity and innovation. These kind of things are crazy. The time period that we go through, the stuff we experience, it's going to be insane. And we really don't know what's going to happen, but if you take a time to actually study history and learn what has happened in the past, you might have a clear picture of some of the possibilities that will come. Anyways, that's all I got. That's I'm sure it went over time, but I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you learned a couple things as well. So thank you for listening. Bye-bye.